Welcome, everybody, to On the Field, taking you through a little recap of this college football season's 2023 bowl games, and we're looking ahead to the big national championship game coming up against Michigan, Washington, the two last undefeated teams. As always, I'm here with my co-host Alex. Alex, Happy New Year. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm not doing so good. Pretty rocky start to the new year. Alabama lost. I don't know. So for the audience, I live in Alabama, so we're rooting for Alabama down here. Nick Saban. Just a very sad day in the state of Alabama and a rocky start to the new year. But looking forward to the national championship game. We had some pretty good bowl games, so at least the game was good. So I'll give it that. The game was really good to watch. Had lots of fun. Hooked up some nachos. Yeah, pretty fun time, but unfortunate result in the bowl game. So
Yeah, Alex, definitely one of the better college football playoff semifinal games in recent memory. Michigan and Alabama going into overtime, and Harbaugh's squad scrapes it out at the end. We'll definitely dive into that one in a little bit. But definitely, Alex, tough for you actually being from Alabama. On the flip side, my family, not associated with Bama or Michigan, but we're more of an Ohio State household in some respects, and I also lean with Notre Dame. And we were definitely not rooting for Michigan in the slightest. One of the rare times I'm rooting for Bama, actually, but what a great game. AJ McCarthy, clinical down the stretch. Jalen Milroe did all he could, stopped short in overtime. And we got Michigan and Washington. Take an M, flip it upside down. Got a W. That's the matchup we got. So, yeah, looking forward to that one. We'll also be doing a little fun ranking of some of our favorite bowls at the end of the pod after a preview of the Natty and some picks, over-unders, and the spread. So, Alex, I'll let you take your first crack at whatever bowl game you want to go over first. Like you mentioned, we had definitely a couple great games, a couple of snoozers, a lot of big blowouts. One team that was chirping Alabama after they lost about not deserving to be in the playoff. They actually lost by 60. We could maybe go over that one, but I'll let you take your first pick here.
yeah, we'll go with one of the more surprising ones. At least for all the USC fans, we had the Holiday Bowl, the ACC runner-up Louisville, 10-3 against USC. They were 7-5. So Louisville was favored in this game. I actually thought that they could win because USC has terrible defense. They've had a terrible defense all year, and they played without Caleb Williams. But that's what's so fun about these bowl games. You don't know what's going to happen. You have the backup quarterback, Miller Moss, straight up balling in this game, 23 out of 33. He put up 372 yards, 6 touchdowns. They didn't miss a beat without Caleb Williams. They're looking real good. And if they have a defense going into 2024, they could be a real contender next year. But final score in this one, 42-28. USC gets the job done and surprised a lot of people.
Yeah, Alex, surprising one, maybe for some, with Louisville being favored. As much as I don't like to back USC, especially this season, their Swiss cheese D, no Caleb Williams, right? Everything's looking like this will be an easy win for Louisville. And they have Miller Moss coming in at QB, or a Holiday Bowl record, 6 touchdowns. And Louisville just kind of collapsed towards the end of the season. A lot of upside taking the Trojans here, something to play for. Not the best season in their own respects, coming into this one at 8-4. With a Heisman quarterback, they were probably hoping for the playoffs, but they fall short of that. They have some proving to do down the stretch, and they get a big win here, 42-28, after being underdogs by like 5 points. No, not a bad end to the season in the slightest for the Trojans. And like one thing you mentioned, Alex, and this is going to be a common theme for a lot of these games as we break them down really quick. the bowl season's so unpredictable now. With now more than ever, with they got the portal coming in, you got players transferring to different schools pretty early, right after the season ends, and you also got people declaring for the draft, people not wanting to play for injury sakes, and a lot of these games are pretty unpredictable in the sense that you don't know who's going to be playing, who's not going to be playing, and which team at the end of the day just ultimately wants it more. And in this one, USC just had more to play for, and they get a nice win in the Direct TV Holiday Bowl at Petco Park. So, great win for USC. One game I want to go over pretty quickly is a team that I was backing a few weeks ago as a dog. They came into this one as a big, not a big favorite, but a sizable favorite. Got Syracuse against USF, South Florida, in the roofclaim.com Boca Raton Bowl, and Syracuse comes into this one, both teams 6-6, but Syracuse favored by almost a touchdown, and they lose 45-0. A big snoozer. Just wanted to get that in quick after I've been riding with Syracuse a couple games throughout the year. One of my dogs of the week when they played at Yankee Stadium against Pitt, I believe, a couple weeks back, and they just get routed here. 45-0, Alex. I'm not sure if you have anything to add for that one, but I had to shout out the roofclaim.com Bowl.
Yeah, I'm just seeing this game for the first time right now. I'm seeing the stats on here. I didn't watch the game, but yeah, that's definitely, they got stomped out right there. Did not expect South Florida to do that.
Yeah, one of the earlier games in the bowl season. Sorry, Alex. So just a couple weeks back, but a stunner in no slightest of the words.
Yeah, and now Syracuse has Honda McCord, just transferred from Ohio State to Syracuse, so we'll see how that works out for them. But Ohio State ran out Kyle McCord, their fan base, and then they lost to Missouri. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, definitely not going to have the same season I think he will without Maserati, Marv, Emeka Buka, and the squad he did in Columbus. So interesting next season for Honda McCord. Absolutely. Alex, what big bowl games do you want to hit here? Anything that caught your eye like that game caught mine?
Yeah. So I think this is one of the better games. You had a Clemson playing Kentucky in the Gator Bowl. Two teams that had, Kentucky actually, they didn't have the season that they wanted, but I would say they overperformed. I mean, just with the schedule and the teams that they played, they went 7-6. I think it's pretty respectable. But Clemson was obviously hoping for more. They had a rough start to the season, losing in their first game. They finished 9-4. I actually was backing Clemson to win. I'm not gonna fade Dabo Swinney, even on a down year. I mean, they just have more talent. But 38-35 in this one. Clemson wins by 3. It actually looked like Kentucky was going to run away with it, but Clemson came back in the second half, and they really set a good start to 2024. I think they'll be back next year.
Yeah, definitely an interesting start to the season for Clemson and Dabo Swinney at 4-4. But they finish the season very strong, go 5-0. They win their bowl game. And at the end of the day, like we just mentioned with USC, rough start to the season, but great finish, and maybe that can just change the narrative heading into an off season. Maybe you get a different recruit, or you sway somebody last minute. And I think you're right, Alex. I think Clemson will be back next year, especially in an ACC conference that looks fairly weak, especially compared to the SEC, the Big Ten. So definitely expect Clemson to be back next year, and especially with the changes to the playoff structure, more likely than not, they will be there in the top 12, I would assume. So, solid bowl in the Tax Slayer Gator Bowl for Clemson. Kentucky finishing the year 7-6, but a solid fight. They cover the spread, 3.5. Can't undermine that in the slightest. Good teams win, but great teams cover. And moving right along on the same day, let's knock out the Goodyear, the Cotton Bowl Classic. We had maybe two of our favorite teams to talk about here on the pod, Alex, in the Buckeyes here, and the number 7 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the number 9 ranked Missouri, whatever
Yeah,
that whatever it is, but taking on Missouri. And Alex, like you said a couple weeks ago, whoever they were taking on, you were going to be backing them, and you were right, absolutely spot on. More of a low scoring affair here, 14-3. But what'd you like from Mizzou here?
yeah. So the stars aligned perfectly for Missouri, and I said it a couple weeks ago. I've been talking about Missouri all season. They got disrespected. That they were 16.5 point underdogs against Georgia. I said it on the pod. Big disrespect to a team like Missouri when they have Brady Cook, they have Luther Burden, they have Cody Schrader, and all those guys are from the same city. They're from St. Louis, Missouri. I mean, this is just a really special year for Missouri. And what Coach Eli Drinkwitz is doing at Missouri is just incredible. I think he's one of those new school coaches. He's like cracks a lot of jokes. He has like a very strong personality. I think that's definitely good for recruiting. And with this win, they'll definitely lot of things to look forward to them. But it had been exactly 9 years since they played this game. They played in the Cotton Bowl in 2014, and last time they won it. The stars aligned perfectly for them, and they finish out a great season. They go 11-2.
Yeah, absolutely great season, Alex, like you mentioned. Um, Fantastic all around performance from like just the whole team, the defense, the offense, like you mentioned all season. Luther Burden, big threat always. Had a nice rushing attempt and a couple receptions here. Brady cooked as per usual. Only one touchdown on the day, but when your defense is holding Ohio State to 3, that's all you need, right? So great performance from Mizzou, and yeah, they're the Tigers. There's like 18 million teams that are the Tigers. There, it got me tripped up for a second. Great game for Mizzou. Great good year Cotton Bowl Classic game. Two great teams from this season. And unfortunate end to the season for Ohio State. Just to quickly give them some credit, they were 11-0. A couple things go differently in that game against Michigan, and maybe they're in the national championship. You never know. But it was a little disappointing not to see Marvin Harrison Jr., Cade Stover, a couple big guys like that. But Becca Buka still played. You had Trevion Henderson doing his thing, but no Honda McCord. And Ohio State just fizzles out at the end of the year, unfortunately. They still go 11-2 overall, but when you're aiming for the playoff in week 10, that's an unfortunate finish to the year. I expect Ohio State to be back next year, especially with the 12-team playoff format. Alex, what do you expect from Mizzou next season?
Oh, definitely super excited for Missouri next season. I think Brady Cook might come back. Luther Burden, he could still come back. Definitely have a lot of guys that are going to return. And they really put out a statement. I mean, since Missouri joined, they've had a couple SEC championship appearances, but they've never won. They've always been like kind of like a middle of the pack SEC team. But I think, especially with having 3 players from Missouri, I think it'll encourage a lot of players from Missouri to stay in state instead of going to these other schools. But yeah, Eli Drinkwitz was what he's doing at Missouri. I mean, it's just great stuff. I think they're going to be really good next year. Definitely going to be some contenders, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Definitely we'll be rooting for them next season, no doubt. One of my favorite teams for me personally to emerge this season on my personal fan radar. So excited to see if they can piggyback off this momentum they had in this season and carry that into next year in a very tough SEC. But that's the Goodyear Cotton Bowl Classic. Let's shift it over to another game from December 29th. We had the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. Notre Dame Fighting Irish taking on the Beavs, Oregon State. And this one wasn't close at all. Notre Dame coming into this one favored by 5.5. Over under was at 40.5. I really thought this one was going to go under. I personally put a little bit on the under here, and the late touchdown in the fourth. Once they got that safety, just kind of broke my spirits. I thought we were chilling heading into the fourth, 24-0, but a couple garbage time scores in the fourth, and it had an over of 48. But overall, solid performance from the Irish. The emergence of Steve Angeli, the announcer's going crazy with the peanut butter and jelly pun all game long. As always this season, the Irish defense, one of the best defenses in all of college football, just phenomenal from start to finish. Special teams, and they just controlled the pace throughout the entire game. I think there was some sort of stat in the third or fourth quarter where Notre Dame had more first downs than Oregon State had plays. So just a controlling, dominating performance from Marcus Freeman's squad. No Sam Hartman in this game, but the Irish take it home in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. I'm very happy we didn't have another Camping World Bowl this year, but a little unfortunate we didn't get a chance to play Brian Kelly. Alex, did you watch the Irish take on the Beavs here? Anything for this game for you?
Yeah, I didn't watch this game. I don't know what I was doing. I think I was with my dad doing something. But yeah, I'm not surprised that they won. But I am, or yeah, 40-8. No DJ. I'm gonna botch his name, so I'm not gonna try to say it. But no DJ quarterback. Out of the backup quarterback, so I'm not surprised. 40-8 is pretty surprising to see. But yeah, I was picking Notre Dame to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a little bit of dominance there. Maybe the Pac-12, and we could talk about this a little bit later with Washington, but the Pac-12 not really the strongest of the conferences, and Oregon State getting blown out by that much. Coming in at 8-4, maybe something to say about the Pac-12, but Washington's been keeping opponents down all season long. Oregon was a big threat all season long, and piggybacking right off of that, let's just go into Oregon versus Liberty in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl, where Liberty coming in 13-0, Oregon coming in at 11-2. And I don't care what the spread was in this one. You're always backing the Ducks here, and they came up clutch here, winning 45-6. They cover the spread of 22.5. But that over/under of 71.5, Alex, it was 71.5, and that was just I think a bit of a bait line from Vegas. There's no way that was getting reached, especially with Liberty here. I never thought they'd be able to put up much points-wise against Oregon and their defense, but bowl season has been kind of unpredictable with who was going to play, who wasn't going to play, and Oregon just wanted to show up big in their last game of the season. Bo Nix, 5 touchdowns in his last game, solid final game in his career. Anything for you for the Ducks? I know we were kind of both backing them to make the playoff. What'd you think of them on New Year's Day?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that the spread was only at 17.5. I took that all day. That's free money. I put that in my parlay. That hit in the first half. So at first I was like, is this what's up with Vegas? Do they know something? Why is the line so low? I mean, it's 17.5 against Liberty. It hasn't played, any Power 5 team at all this season. And then you have Oregon that's destroying good Power 5 opponents, just completely blowing them out. You saw what they did to Colorado. You saw what they did to all these other teams. So yeah, that was free money. Bo Nix and Tess Johnson, they had a really good game. Bo Nix's final game. He's going to the draft now. But yeah, that's just free money all day. And we cashed out on that. So overall, very good performance by Oregon, but not surprising at all.
Yeah, definitely not surprising at all. Definitely an easy win for the Ducks. And Liberty, 13-1. Solid season overall. Maybe next year, if they can repeat that regular season performance, they'll get that 12 spot. But never really expecting them to do much. Come bowl season, especially in a game like that, you're getting one of the best teams in college football playoff that aren't in the playoffs. Or in all of college football that aren't in the playoffs. Sorry. Alex, what do you want to get into next? We still got a couple games. Got Ole Miss and Penn State, Georgia dominating Florida State, Auburn losing to Maryland.
Yeah,
Before we get
let's
into
go
the
in. Let's jump into one of my another one of my favorite teams, all season.
Mhm.
Another team that also doesn't have a defense at all. The LSU Tigers, number 13. So they finished the season 10-3 under Brian Kelly. So this game actually started off pretty rough, as expected for LSU that doesn't have Jaden Daniels. Um, Malik Neighbors played for a couple of minutes. He just broke the record, and then he came off the field. But you still had Brian Thomas Jr. You still had Lacey. You still had a couple other guys. So not surprised that they won. But at one point it was 28-14, and then you're looking as like, oh no, LSU is going to do it again with their terrible defense. They're going to lose because this time they don't have Jaden Daniels, but Garrett Nussmeier, the backup quarterback, he looked real good. He threw for almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, just 1 interception, and he gets to come back. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. Uh, Again, the Tigers are going to look real good next season. I think Brian Kelly's going to dial something up, going to get them right in the off season. And fortunately for us, Garrett Nussmeier, he looks like the real deal. That's just an explosive offense. Has a lot of weapons, and he's been under the arm of Jaden Daniels, so he's been training with him. I'm pretty sure Jaden Daniels is giving him lots of advice, so that's exciting to see how he performs in 2024. But it's looking really good.
Yeah, absolutely, Alex. One of the best bowl games of this entire season. LSU in just a stellar game overall. Not one, but two 14-point deficits coming back to beat Wisconsin. They didn't have the Magic Man, the Heisman winner, Jaden Daniels, like you mentioned, but they still somehow found a way to scrape it out late. Like you mentioned, Nussmeier came in, was solid. Maybe they have their answer next year, but definitely not going to be to the level that they had this year with Jaden Daniels. But with the offensive weapons this Tigers team has, their offense is going to be looking good next year. They scrape out a 10-win season. Brian Kelly, another 10-win season in his second year with LSU, so got to give him a little bit of credit there. But a great finish to the season for the Tigers overall. And Wisconsin put up a heck of a fight here. One of the 7-5 Big Ten teams coming in, definitely undermatched for sure. They cover the spread of 8.5. They almost won outright. So definitely giving some credits there to the Badgers, but LSU, a win and an over. What else is new in the new year? They're keeping it consistent. New year, same Tigers, and they get the dub here in the ReliaQuest Bowl.
And the Gus Bus keeps rolling. That's what they call Garrett Nussmeier, the Gus
The Gus
Bus.
Bus. That's definitely better than Honda McCord, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, for sure.
See if the Gus Bus can keep it rolling next year. Looking forward to seeing what Brian Kelly cooks up in year 3 with LSU. Let's quickly go over another Big Ten SEC matchup, actually. We got Penn State, Ole Miss in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Penn State coming in 10-2, only losing to Ohio State and Michigan on the season. Ole Miss coming into this one only losing to Alabama and Georgia. So a bit of an interesting affair there. You got two lost teams to two of the most overpowered teams in all of college football. An interesting one, no doubt. Penn State coming into this one actually a 5.5-point favorite. And what else is new? They can't beat a top opponent. Ole Miss coming in 38-25. They take home the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Boy Jackson Dart with a solid performance on the day, throwing for 380 yards, 3 touchdowns. Brees Corn, solid overall with 136 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. And at the end of the day, Penn State Their defense wasn't able to get it done, and this offense, like we mentioned a couple weeks throughout the year, Alex, just not the most talented overall when you compare them to the big dogs. They're going to beat the teams they should beat, but in those games against a team like Ohio State or a top SEC team, definitely going to be a little bit outmatched here. So tough end to the season for Franklin and the Nittany Lions, but Ole Miss, solid showing for them and for the SEC, taking home the Peach Bowl. Alex, what do you think from this one?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, we said it a couple times here on the pod. Penn State just has no offense. They have no creativity, no downfield passes. Just they're just gonna run the ball, throw the ball short. Drew Aller had a pretty bad game. His backup actually came in. He scored a touchdown for 48 yards. I don't know why they didn't leave him in. In my opinion, they should have left the backup quarterback in, gave him a chance. I mean, Drew Aller just, I don't know. I don't think he's the guy for Penn State. But yeah, I wasn't gonna fade on Ole Miss. They put up, I think, 56 points on LSU. Jackson Dart is really good. Quinshon Judkins, one of the best running backs in the country, completely shredded that defense. And no Manny Diaz for Penn State, so their defense wasn't gonna look as good. I think they were the number one defense in the country, but no Manny Diaz. You had a couple key players out on their defense, but yeah, Ole Miss gets the job done. They get another one for the SEC. So yeah, pretty good performance. A really good game to watch. But yeah, Lane Kiffin gets his first 11-win season at Ole Miss. So yeah, lots of exciting things to look forward to. I mean, Lane Kiffin he's done a lot with little, and he has some good players in the transfer portal now coming to Ole Miss. So definitely going to be exciting to see what he can cook up next year. But overall, a good start for them for Ole Miss.
Yeah, definitely a good, not only good, but fantastic actually season for Ole Miss. This is their program's first 11-win season. So big win in the Peach Bowl for them. They found what was working for them in this one and just kept hitting the nail on the head with the same sort of plays over and over. And this one was a bit more of a blowout than the final scoreline even suggests here. Statement win for Ole Miss, statement season, and a good one for the SEC too. Unfortunately, when it comes to the SEC, the last team we're going to mention here that backs them up in Georgia is the only other team that's going to kind of get the job done with Alabama coming up short. But let's just break down the Capital One Orange Bowl. It had two of the biggest teams that missed out on the playoff. The fifth-ranked Seminoles, Florida State. No Jordan Travis, unfortunately. And the big dogs in Georgia, who miss out after losing in the SEC title game to Bama. And I don't know. This game had me speechless. Just like I just paused there for that. I don't know really where to start in this one. Like we mentioned earlier, a lot of people out in terms of the bowl games. Georgia gave it their all and never really took their foot off the gas pedal until the fourth quarter, really. And they win this one 63-3, Alex. And that's why I was a little bit shaken up earlier in the pod when I mentioned the Florida State was chirping Alabama after they lost a tough, close game to Michigan, saying they didn't deserve the spot. How can you say that after you lose by 60 points?
Yeah, and I said this before the ACC championship game. I came on the pod and I said it. I told everybody, I was like, this is not the same team that we saw earlier in the season. Without Jordan Travis, they're a completely different team. And I said it before the ACC championship game. And then once Alabama won the SEC championship game, I knew that they were in. I mean, you just can't put them in. They're not one of the best four teams. They're just completely different team without Jordan Travis. I mean, Tate Rodemaker, he already transferred. He didn't even stay. That says a lot about him. He only had 134 yards. against that win over Florida. But I think what a lot of people don't realize, or they never bring it up, Florida was also playing with their backup quarterback. They weren't at full strength either, and they didn't look good in that game. I mean, he only had 134 yards. They looked terrible against Louisville. Brock Glenn, he only had a couple yards. He didn't really do anything. Their offense looked terrible. But I mean, I don't see how you can argue that Florida State's one of the best four teams. You know, after watching them barely beat Louisville, and I was one of the, I said on the pod a couple months ago that Florida State was, I picked Florida State to win the whole thing. You know, when Jordan Travis was healthy, but there's just a big difference. You know, last year when Alabama got left out, and they should have been in last year. I don't know how you can put TCU in over, you know, Alabama. TCU lost in the Big 12 championship. Alabama was the better team. I don't think you can argue that last year that Alabama was not better than TCU. And then Alabama went and played Kansas State and then the Sugar Bowl, I think. And Bryce Young was the number one draft pick. He played the game. He didn't sit out. They all played the game. But you have Florida State, they don't get in, and you have like 20 opt-outs for them. So I think it's a culture thing. But yeah, they definitely didn't deserve to be number 4. Not one of the best 4 teams without Jordan Travis. So there's end of rant right there.
Yeah, Alex, great point there that you make in terms of bringing up last year TCU getting in over Bama, and that semifinal in the playoff was just an awful game. They got routed. Nobody even I would expect nobody really tuned into the second half of that one. And I think one of the things the College Football Playoff Committee had to consider when structuring this 4-team playoff, you know, you had to get Michigan and Washington in, but in terms of the last 2 teams, it can't just come down to the record at that point because you're trying to get an overall great product at the end of the day in terms of the games. If you have a team like Florida State go in, they did finish the season undefeated, but unfortunately, and like you mentioned, Alex, very true point, this isn't the same team that they had in weeks 1 through 7 or 8, where Jordan Travis was cooking, things were looking great. Unfortunately, it goes down with a season-ending injury. They struggle the last couple of weeks, and unfortunately, the committee just couldn't trust in the fact that if they put them in, they're going to be able to compete with one of the top teams, and kind of took last year's semifinal, I think, a little bit more seriously in that sense, and gave the spots to, I think, 2 of the more obviously better teams at that moment in time in Alabama and Texas. There was a better narrative where Texas beat Alabama and Alabama beat Georgia, so you got to have them in, and maybe they rematch in the national championship game. But unfortunately, you know, both games were very close, and we got 2 fantastic semifinal games. So I'm not complaining. I think at the end of the day, it was the right decision from the committee putting in Texas and Bama. And unfortunately for the Orange Bowl, for Florida State, I think they didn't want it as much. Like you mentioned, Alex, a lot of opt-outs, and Georgia wanted to make a statement that, you know, they're still the best team in college football playoff, or in college football, period. Even though they didn't make the playoff, they lost to Bama. An insane score of 63-3 for them. So just a stunning game, a stunner. I couldn't believe what I was watching in the third quarter. But what a game at the end of the day.
Yeah, and pretty disappointing that Georgia didn't get in either. This would have been a perfect year for the 12-team playoff, because Georgia has so much talent and they have so many good players. It would have been incredible to see them in the playoff. You know, playing against Michigan, playing against Washington. We would have had some of the best games that we've ever seen. But, you know, I guess we'll never know.
I guess we'll never know. An iconic quote a wise man once said. But not another great point, Alex, right there. I was trying to mention that, and it slipped my mind for a second there. But next season, we're going to have 12 teams in, and it's going to drastically change, I think, what teams' outlook on the seasons are. Like, are they playing for a bye week? Are they playing for just getting into the 12? Are you trying to go undefeated? Like, what's the game plan there? And like you mentioned, a perfect year for this 12 team format would have been this season where we had so many teams with storylines and narratives and great records, and I think we would have had a lot of great earlier matchups in that bracket, which could have led to a little bit of upsetting Final Fours or even a national championship. But we'll have to wait and see how that pans out next season. Um, Unfortunately, we only had what we had this year with 4 teams, and I think the playoff committee did the best that they could. But definitely tough not to see Bama or Georgia in there as well with Bama and the other teams, but only so many spots. And when you lose that SEC championship game with only 4 spots, it's tough to get in. So final game of the season, big W for Georgia, and a sad note for the Seminoles. Uh, One of the last bowl games we have here. You want to talk about the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl really quick?
Yeah. So we had one of the worst offenses in the country. 2 straight shutouts for Iowa. They just can't score any points. I think they have their backup quarterback in. Uh, they have a good defense, but if you can't score any points, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. You have to be able to put at least put up 3 points. But they didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They got blown away, 35-0. No Joe Milton for Tennessee. Instead, you have the backup. I'm gonna say this wrong. Nico Iamaleava. Definitely said that wrong, but the future is looking bright for Tennessee. This guy can run. He has really good legs. His arm skills they're okay, but definitely going to progress later in the season, this upcoming season. He's only a freshman, so if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm definitely excited to see what I saw in that bowl game. Especially up against that really good defense in Iowa. But total out of 19, 151 yards and 1 touchdown. Tennessee goes 9-4 on the season, and they finish in the top 25. Overall, considering their schedule, I mean, they played Georgia, or they played Alabama. They played lots of other good teams. Beat Texas A&M. Had a couple other good wins, but yeah, if I'm a Tennessee fan, I'm excited for next year. This guy can really run.
Yeah, Alex, to your points there, I might just thinking this one while you were talking there, but I was trying to think of how to pronounce his name as well, and I might be I'm a believer and I'm a lever, so maybe that's tough. Maybe we have to crop that one out in the edit there. But anyway, big takeaway for me in this one was yet another under for Iowa. The final over under coming in at 36.5. When this game finishes 35-0 in favor of the Volunteers. Iowa doing their best to cash another under. And in what used to be the Camping World Bowl, we got the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl here, so at Camping World Stadium. Yeah, tough game to watch, but if you're a Vols fan, great performance. You had a nice showing from a freshman quarterback, and at the end of the day, solid season overall. And just a tough showing from Iowa, and a bad look, I think, for the Big Ten overall, not putting up any points. Just a tough game for a fan. If I was watching this game, I definitely didn't, because I was not going to put up any fight, and you know that. So, but just a solid performance. Can't take anything away from Tennessee at the end of the day.
Yeah, actually going into this one, I didn't have super full confidence in Tennessee, just because they only put up 7 points against Missouri, and they have no Joe Milton, so I was a little bit worried. But yeah, I probably should have put that one on my parlay.
Yeah, definitely. Volunteers W was a lock, even though the spread only 4.5. Oh man. So one of the last bowl games there. And Alex, I think, unless you want to touch on Auburn really quickly, who lose shocking one, they lose to Maryland actually in the Music City Bowl. But
yeah, I think we can go into the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl.
Okay. I'm down.
Let's
Let's
do.
start with the first game, no? Or do you want to save
Yeah,
Michigan
yeah.
Alabama?
Let's get the heartbreak out the way. Let's go with the first game.
All right. I'll let you kick things off here. This was your game to watch.
Yeah, just very sad day, for me on the new year. I was actually looking forward to watch Alabama get the national championship because the championship is on the 8th. Every year, the championship is on my birthday. I was really looking forward to see Alabama play in the championship, on my birthday, do a big tailgate, but it's not going to happen. So they started off in the first quarter, just terrible. They sacked Milrow, I think, 5 times in the first half. The center had some snapping problems, and he actually had these same problems in the SEC championship game when they played Georgia. Not as bad, but the snaps were super low. Milrow had to, bend down almost all the way just to get those snaps, and it worked out in their favor because they could run straight up the middle against Georgia, but not against this Michigan team. So the center, I mean, in the first half it was 13-10. And that's only because Michigan had that muffed punt that
Mm-hmm.
Alabama recovered, and then they scored. So if you take that away, it would have been 13-3, at half. And then in the second half, they made some adjustments. They actually looked better. Michigan didn't score, until that final drive in the fourth quarter. I mean, they didn't. Alabama didn't let them score anything in the third. Really nothing in the fourth until there was a couple minutes left. I actually thought it was looking like they were going to win, but on that drive where they had those bad snaps, they were actually driving down the field. I think they had 2 or 3 first downs. They were gaining some momentum. They would have scored right there. The game's over. So
Yep.
in the end, just disappointing. Blake Corum with a dagger, just same way he did against Ohio State. Just delivers a dagger runs right to the left side again, hitting that diagonal side of the field. But good deserved victory for Michigan. This is the third straight season that they get to the semifinals. So, what they say, the third time's a charm, and it worked out for Michigan. They're in the finals now, playing against Washington, and I think Alabama will be back next year. But disappointing game for me.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, great game. I know for you personally, tough one to go through. Heartbreaking loss late, but this one was just a classic game, I think, especially at the Rose Bowl. In terms of narrative, you had Michigan starting out with a bit of lead. We've seen Alabama all season long getting out to tough starts and then clawing their way back and dominating second halves. And I almost thought we were going to be seeing a little bit of the same here. You mentioned Alabama was down early in the game, almost. Michigan misses an extra point. It could have been 14-7 or to 3, but they keep themselves close throughout. Second half comes around and they find themselves in a position where they're up by a touchdown in the fourth quarter with around like 5 minutes to go, and Roman Wilson, JJ McCarthy, Blake Corum all combine and just make some insane plays down the stretch. They force overtime, and then, like you mentioned, Alex, Blake Corum just dragging himself to the end zone, and Alabama unable to score in response. And you have an all-time classic Rose Bowl game where Michigan, Jim Harbaugh back on the sideline, they're undefeated, third time's the charm, like you mentioned, and they find themselves in the national championship game. Overall, just an insane game. I just didn't want it to end. I wanted Alabama to score and get more overtime and see more, but unfortunately, at the end of the day, the Wolverines keep it rolling. They cover the spread. The over just barely cashing by 1.5 points at 47. But fantastic game. Honestly, one of my favorites from the entire bowl season.
Yeah,
It had everything.
definitely a good game, and I think if Florida State would have been in, it would have been at least 20 points or something like that. But maybe not as bad as against Georgia because they would have had a Rodemaker. But yeah, good win for Michigan. I think the committee got it right, and we'll see how this championship plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. And one further thing, JJ McCarthy, great game overall. Kind of had to pass a little bit more in this one. He was conservative down the stretch in games in the regular season, but goes 17 for 27, 220 yards, 3 touchdowns. And Brady, after the game, even mentions best Michigan quarterback of all time. He says so on social media and it confirms it. So I don't know. That one's definitely up for debate. Definitely probably having a better Michigan career than Brady, but we'll see. Good win for Michigan. They're going to be taking on Washington, who were the 2 seed against the 3 seed Texas Longhorns in the All-State Sugar Bowl. And what a game this one was. Back and forth, left and right. You think Washington has it, and Texas is playing for the win with a minute left, actually. An insane game. Back and forth. You had Michael Penix Jr. leading the undefeated Huskies. Dylan Johnson doing what he's been doing all season. Scraping along, finding the end zone. Rome Odunze, great game. Receiving the ball, doing what he's been doing all season long. And at the end of the day, this Washington team, who a lot of people thought wouldn't be here, have looked sketchy in the least in a couple games, a couple close calls throughout the season, but at the end of the day, they're walking out with a W. Alex, what'd you like from the Huskies here?
Yeah, I just have one thing to say. Michael Penix Jr. is the real deal. I mean, this guy's the way he throws his deep ball. The receivers don't even have to extend the ball; literally just falls right in. They just have to close their hands. I mean, I've never seen somebody throw the ball like this guy does. He throws it so accurately downfield. This guy's a monster. I mean, what he's been able to do and the wide receiver core that he has. I mean, he has so many weapons. He has Odunze, he has McMillan, he has all these wide receivers, and then you have Dylan Johnson on the ground. And I said it before the game. I actually picked Washington to win just because Texas secondary hasn't been good all season long. We saw it against Oklahoma. When they played Dylan Gabriel, their secondary was just getting torched. And now you have Michael Penix Jr. throwing the ball. So I'm not surprised that Washington won. But on my parlay, I took the over. And that cashed out. So happy for Washington. I definitely picked against them earlier in the season. But, you can't deny how good Michael Penix Jr. is. And he has all those weapons. Just a really good Washington team. One more thing. Braylon Trice. I said it before the game too. That guy's a monster. Last year when they played Texas in the bowl game, he got to Quinn Ewers. This year he did the same thing. But I've seen this guy rush so many quarterbacks all season. That guy's a difference maker. He kind of reminds me of Nick Fairley in 2010 for Auburn when they won the national championship. You had Cam Newton and number 90, Nick Fairley on the defense. This guy reminds me exactly like him. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington win this thing. Braylon Trice is really good. One of the better defensive players, and that guy's a big difference maker. So excited to see how this plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple great points you made there throughout. Michael Penix Jr., phenomenal game. 430 yards, QBR of 97.7. And just a great all-around performance from their receiving core. We mentioned Rome Odunze earlier, but Jalen Polk had a couple of insane grabs. One that was deflected by one of the safeties there, and he just catches it in the end zone calmly. The narrative for the Husky team throughout the entire season is that they just can't put teams away in individual games. They can't seem to win by more than a score. But they're always in games and competing throughout. They're never really finding themselves too far behind, even if they are in a tough matchup. But they get things done here. They claim their spot in the national championship game, facing off against Michigan, and the only two undefeated teams left. Just what an insane path, honestly, in my personal opinion, for the Huskies. I think they had definitely a hard schedule, a hard road and path, and I think it's definitely well deserved. And I'm excited to see Michael Penix Jr. try to overcome the odds here. 5-point underdogs in the national championship game. Can he put up an offensive performance like he just did against Texas against the Michigan Wolverines? Alex, let's break it down.
Yeah, let's get into it. You have
We got
Michigan. Or go ahead.
I was just gonna say we got Michigan 14-0, Washington 14-0. Michigan favored by 74% chance to win according to ESPN's analytics. But I just want to get my first inkling of this out of the way. I thought the line should be about 4.5. So I'm intrigued to see it's already at like 5 here on ESPN. And let's see what it is on overtime. But first and foremost, I want to say I think my brain is leading me towards Michigan. They've been dominant all season. But for some reason, my gut tells me Washington defies the odds. I think they're able to win this game. But 5 points, I especially would like it if it was around 6.5 or 7. But I think Washington plus 5 is going to be my call. And I think this one goes under. I think Michigan's defense is going to hold them close, but late Michael Penix Jr. will come up clutch. He'll find Rome Odunze for a big catch, and Dylan Johnson will put it in. I think this one goes under. I think Washington wins a very close one. I think Michigan's defense is dominant like they've been all season, and I think they scrape it out in the realm of around 21-17, 21-14. That's my take. Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely an interesting game. I didn't think we were going to get this game, but I'll say this. Michigan hasn't seen the wide receivers that Washington has. And I know a lot of people are going to say that's not true. They played against Maserati Marv. You had a Gabuka. Yes, they played against them, but their quarterback is Honda McCord. Michael Penix Jr. isn't Honda McCord. This guy's a beast. This guy would throw it. I said it earlier. The defenders don't even have to extend it. The ball literally falls right into their arm, and all they have to do is close it. I haven't seen a quarterback like Penix in a long time. And then you add Trice in there. That guy's a beast. Gonna get some sacks on JJ McCarthy. But if you watch the Alabama game in Michigan, JJ McCarthy actually didn't look so good at times. And if I was watching the updates on Twitter, and everybody's like, "Oh, JJ McCarthy's trash." His own Michigan fans were saying that, and that at the end they were saying that he was good, but that was only because they won and he had that drive. But he really wasn't playing that good in the second half. I mean, they went out 3-and-out a couple times on a couple drives. They had that Jalen Milroe fumble, which they recovered in Alabama territory, and they still couldn't score on that. So Penix Jr. and the quarterback matchup, Michael Penix Jr. is a lot better than JJ McCarthy, and he has the weapons to really destroy, or to put up some scores on the Michigan secondary. I said this earlier in the season too. For the potential matchup between Alabama and Georgia, I said I was worried about that game for Alabama because Alabama doesn't have any good receivers. Their best receiver is Jermaine Burton, and this was before they played Auburn. Isaiah Bond came out because I think he's better than Burton, but at the time, everybody thought that Jermaine Burton is the best wide receiver. But I mean, you really only have those two wide receivers for Alabama, Jermaine Burton and Isaiah Bond. But Washington has Rome Odunze, they have Jalen Polk, they have McMillan. Combine that with Dylan Johnson, and then you add Trice on the defense. This is going to be a really good matchup. I don't know who will win, but I'm going to take Washington on the spread too. Give me the 5 points. Give me Washington. I think they find a way to really win this thing.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting ways that this game could go is that these two teams have had, I think, drastically like different paths almost to the playoff. I know they're both 14-0, but I feel like Washington has been a bit more underrated throughout the season, especially the analytics didn't really back them as a top team. And I think they have been battle tested throughout the year. Oregon twice, a tough Utah defense, and Michigan. With all due respect, they had maybe like 2.5 big games on the season. I give a half to Penn State, maybe being a little generous there, but they basically just had to beat Ohio State and beat Alabama here, and they're in the national championship game. And I know they have Jim Harbaugh back. Uh, they've looked dominant all season. I know their defense is one of the best in all of college football without a doubt. But something's telling me that despite Michigan seeming like the favorite here, Washington scrapes out a win, and if they don't, it's either going to be Washington wins this one close, or Michigan just shuts them out and proves like everybody wrong because their defense
Yeah,
has stepped up. It'll be interesting to see how these two teams clash. Is, I guess, more of the sense I was trying to get across, where Washington's kept every game close this season, and you expect them to do that again. But they haven't really faced as insane of an opponent as Michigan. I just want and hope to see them keep it close, scrape it out. I think they can definitely cover the spread right now of 5. Some places I see 4.5. If you can get it at 5, definitely at 6. I like that line a lot. I think this is going to be a low scoring one. Alex, what do you think in terms of the over under 55.5?
let's see. Let's do some quick math for 55.5. All right, so it would have to be something like 31-28 to hit the over. That's a lot of points, especially with that Michigan defense. And you have Trice on Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I might lean towards the over. I can see like 28-24, 28-21, 21-17. But it's Michael Penix Jr. I really think that he's going to be able to really test Michigan where they haven't been tested because, like you said, they've only played really 2 teams, and one of them has Honda McCord, and then the other one's Alabama without elite wide receivers like you've seen in the past, like Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Calvin Ridley. You don't really have that this season, so yeah, I like the under this one.
Yeah, I definitely like the under as well with everything we mentioned. Michigan's defense. I think that will set the tone in this game, and I think it'll be close throughout. And Washington, and especially Michael Penix Jr., will find his moments to strike and capitalize on them. But I definitely see the pace of this game being a little bit slower than 55.5, despite me researching before the game in the college football playoff era. Only 2 times has the national championship game dipped below this line, and the 2 times they were very close to hitting in the 50s, both of them. Or one game 49 and the other game 52. So very close both times to hitting, but I think this one has all the makings of an under. I think first quarter will be especially low scoring. Teams will get their nerves out of the way, and then we'll see. I like Michigan to maybe strike first here with a field goal, and they'll just trade shots back and forth in the third quarter. But it'll be a 1-score game throughout. I think this one will be close, and I think Michael Penix Jr. at the end of the day gets the job done. I think that's the narrative that this whole college football season has been telling me, at least from what I've been watching. They've been seemingly on the ropes, even though they're undefeated, and even when you think they're down and out and they're outmatched, they're going to surprise you and scrape out a win. But can't underestimate Michigan in the slightest.
Yeah, definitely. I think you said that perfectly. It's going to be a really good game. Oh man, Michael Penix Jr. and those wide receivers, Blake Corum, Ed Edwards, JJ McCarthy. This is going to be a really good game, and thankfully for me, it's on my birthday. So, can't ask for nothing better than that. January 8th, get to celebrate my birthday, get to put some
Hey,
bets on the college football, the national championship. So definitely looking forward to that. Even though Alabama's not in, but we'll still watch it anyway. Um, not gonna say no to a good football game, and we're gonna be rooting for Washington, but we'll see how it plays out.
absolutely. I think same over here, rooting for Washington. My brain just says at the end of the day, Michigan will probably end up just winning. It'll be uh, a whatever game, and Jim Harbaugh with the whole scandal. That'll be a whole narrative for a couple years. And the Michigan team stealing signs, winning the national championship. But we'll see how it unfolds. Definitely, they've been dominant in all of their matchups. Couple of close calls though with Ohio State and Alabama, but at the end of the day, they're here. Washington also here. We got it all upcoming this Monday on Alex's birthday, January 8th. Can't wait to see how it all unfolds in Houston, Texas, in the national championship game, and could be one of the last intriguing matchups for the four-team college football playoff era.
Yeah,
We had a couple
yeah,
seasons of it now, and I'm excited for
and
next
and
year.
an end of an era and the 14 playoff. Um, Definitely not gonna miss it. Definitely excited to see it expand. Uh, I still think 12 teams is too many. I think eight would have been a better number because, like you said earlier, you can have a team like Liberty go undefeated and make it in, then get blown out by number 11 or something. But yeah, just a good end to the season. Looking forward to this game.
Absolutely. And one final thing, I think, before we wrap things up here for on the field, a little fun ranking from all of the bowl games here. Alex and I are gonna each pick our three favorite bowls. For whatever reason, I'll start things off with just one of my favorite ones for this year. A nice change of pace and breath of fresh air from the Pop Tarts Bowl, Kansas State and NC State. An absolutely phenomenal game from Kansas State. They cover the spread, but at the end of the day, the Pop Tart mascot for me stole the show. Makes a grand entrance, popping out of a toaster, and at the end of the day, he was devoured by Kansas State's team. One of the funniest things I've seen in the bowl era or bowl games in general in a long time. The Pop Tarts Bowl for me is coming in at number one. Alex, what about you?
Yeah. So you started from number one. I'll do from number three. So
Okay.
I'll go. Let's see. I'm gonna go the Real Quest Bowl, Wisconsin and LSU. They were down 14-0. Uh, they tied the game. Then they were down 28-14. They came back. The Gus Bus led them back. No Jaden Daniels. They end up winning the game by 4. Just a good back and forth game. So that's gonna be my number 3 for me.
Yeah, definitely gotta have your team in there, repping, and definitely a good pick for sure. I think without a shadow of a doubt, for me at number 2, you gotta have the Rose Bowl, an all-time classic, instant classic, phenomenal game, overtime thriller. Michigan and Alabama. Very happy that was what the playoff committee gave us, and they delivered in a low-scoring but tough outing. Some insane plays throughout, and especially down the stretch, like I mentioned earlier, from Roman Wilson getting them into the end zone to tie it. And Kirk Herbstreit mentioned a couple times over the weekend, but make this the site for the national championship game permanently. It's just an iconic venue. It's a great overall atmosphere, and a funny take from a fan was you don't have to worry about home field advantage because you won't see UCLA there ever. So maybe they make the Rose Bowl permanent for the next era of the college football playoff. I'd like to see it be featured for sure. Iconic game, iconic bowl. That's going in for me at number 2.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see them play at Pasadena, in the national championship. For me, number 2 is going to be the Sugar Bowl, Texas and Washington. Lots of points scored. It looked like Washington was going to run away with it, and then Texas comes back, and they almost get the job done. But seeing Michael Penix throw all those dimes and all those points scored, that's going to be my number 2 for me.
Absolutely. The counterpart, the playoff game. Texas almost making an insane comeback late. Just one close pass away from maybe sneaking out a 38-37 win, but Washington gets it done. Great pick for you at 2. Love it. And for me, I'm kind of torn here on what I go for at 3. Do I go for more of the memes here, or do I go for the better game? I think at the end of the day, I'm going to take a page out of your book, Alex, and I'm just going to shout out my own team here and one of my favorite new mascots and brands for the Bulls in general. We're going to El Paso, Texas for me, Notre Dame and Oregon State in the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. A lot of funny posts I got to see from some players on the team I follow on social media with Tony the Tiger throughout the week. Just had me in just an overall like lackadaisical, silly mood for this matchup where we didn't get LSU, but we got Oregon State, and at the end of the day, the Irish put up a big win. So I had to shout out Marcus Freeman and Tony the Tiger. Put the frosting on the flakes for this season for the Irish. They finished 10-3, and they'll be in at number 3 for me. So Alex, what is it going to be for you at 1?
Yeah. Before I say my number 1, I'll just say this: I'm glad that LSU didn't play Notre Dame because I think we would have lost without Jaden Daniels. So thankfully we didn't have to play Notre Dame. But for me, number 1 is going to be the Rose Bowl, Alabama versus Michigan. They go into overtime. A lot of back and forth. It looked like Alabama was going to take it. And then on the final drive, Michigan goes, they score, they tie the game. Then we go to overtime. So that's going to be the number 1 game for me. Just had us on the edge of the seat the whole game. Ended in a heartbreak, but still really good game. So we'll put that one in at number 1.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely the best game from the entire bowl season. I just think the Pop-Tart mascot did a lot of heavy lifting in terms of added value off the field. So for me, you had to have Kansas State, NC State in the Pop-Tart Bowl at number 1, just because we've never seen a mascot get eaten after a game. And I think it was just groundbreaking for college football, groundbreaking for Pop-Tarts in general, and an insane marketing move. And I think it paid off big time.
Yeah, maybe we can get an overtime Markets Bowl next season. And have them eat some type of mascot.
That would be absolutely nuts. One can dream, I'm sure. Get some vouchers out there. Maybe do something at halftime where people are tossing footballs into Dr. Pepper cans, something like that, like Dr. Pepper does.
Yeah, we can toss in some edible footballs to the stands.
Great value bowl, for sure. We'll see, maybe one day. But at the end of the day, I think that's gonna just about wrap it up for us here on the field. It's been an insane college football season for us, going back to week 7 when we started making these recap and look ahead videos and podcasts. It's been an absolute blast and a ride from start to finish, and I can't wait to hopefully break it all back down with you next season, Alex. Absolutely had a great time. Want to thank you for your being here, your takes, your endless knowledge on the history, some past teams, and great takes on this season as well. And I'm very grateful I had the opportunity to host this alongside with you. And I want to thank everybody out there who's tuned in and listened. Very thankful for all the engagement and all the great members of the community on Overtime that we're building on the Web3 Sportsbook. It's a fantastic place to be and a fantastic time to be in the community. And just want to send all my appreciation to the viewers, the fans, and to college football at the end of the day. Alex, I'll let you take it away from here, buddy.
Yeah, I'm really thankful for Overtime for giving us this opportunity. Both of us, we really like football. Watch it every weekend. We're gonna watch these games regardless if we had a podcast or not. So really thankful for the opportunity to come up here on our own podcast. We hit a lot of parlays. I think I went 15-0 one week. Hit a couple parlays. Yeah, and that's all on record now. So just really excited. Super grateful for Overtime. This is the best sports book on the market right now. I mean, if you talk about regular sports books like DraftKings or FanDuel, like if you win too much, they'll just ban you, and you can only place your bets, in a couple of states. Overtime you can place it from wherever you're at. It doesn't matter, if you're in Georgia, if you're in Kansas, you can just place it from wherever. It's super easy. Has all the games. It doesn't just have football. It has boxing, UFC, soccer, hockey. I mean, you have any sport that you want. It's on here. It's super easy to use. And we have a account abstraction coming up pretty soon. So if you're having trouble using it right now, in a couple of weeks you'll be able to sign up with your email. It's going to be super easy to use. And by next football season, we'll have you'll be able to sign up with your email. It's going to be super easy to use, and I'm really excited to see how much or how many new users we get for next season, because there's so many improvements to Overtime, and it's just going to be super easy to use. So yeah, thank you, Steven, for co-hosting this with me. It's been a fun couple of weeks here, and looking forward to it next season.
Absolutely, Alex. Pleasure, as always, to be doing this with you. And like you mentioned, thank you to Overtime as well. Great platform. Not just football. We got a lot. Got everything. Hockey, basketball, football, all the different European soccer leagues. A couple weeks back, I hit a nice Serie A parlay with a couple of my Italian teams winning. Bet on a Juventus Inter Milan draw. Had a nice 10-1 return. Had a 10-1 parlay, like you did, Alex. You won 15-0 one week. I had a 4-0 spread pick. It's been a fun season, no doubt. The highs and the lows. Alabama missing out, Notre Dame losing out. But throughout all of it, there's always great games to watch for college football, and it was a pleasure to be able to break it all down on the field. Thank you, everybody. Have a great, happy, and healthy new year, and let's get ready for 14-0 and 14-0 Michigan and Washington in the national championship. Thank you, everybody.